I've been in a book slump, reading slump, everything slump, for probably like over a month. The last book I read was Crown of Midnight by Sarah J Maas, which is the second book in the Throne of Glass series. That book took me about a month to finish, and I finished that book. I picked up Heir of Fire, and I've been reading Heir of Fire for probably like 2 weeks, which is not normal for me. Like, normally I can finish a book in a day or two. Like, the biggest book I've read is A Court of Silver Flames, and I finished that book in 2 days. And that book's like 800 pages. So it's very weird for me to be reading like Crown of Midnight, for example, which I'm pretty sure that book's like 400 pages. I'm reading Heir of Fire the most right now. I actually read a lot last night, which I didn't film because I'm actually recording on my phone right now. I don't have my camera. My boyfriend's sister took it with her for her senior week trip because she wanted to take pictures. So I don't have my camera, but we're just going to make do. But I actually read quite a bit last night. Like, I could feel myself being pulled slowly out of a slump. I read quite a bit. I'm on page 320 now. So I have 2 more books that I want to read, so I'm hoping these will help me get out of my slump. So the first book is Fourth Wing, which you can't even see. Fourth Wing. I don't have the dust jacket on it because I don't like dust jackets when I'm reading books. I did start reading it. I'm like literally only 5 pages in. I have another hard cover book, no dust jacket. This one's called One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake. This book, all I know is I'm pretty sure it's like a Romeo and Juliet retelling. This is like the girl side with the mom, and the daughters on the other side, the dad with the sons. And I'm pretty sure one of the sons and then one of the daughters fall in love. That's all. That is all. I'm reading Heir of Fire right now, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm getting to like really good parts, but I like the different storylines we have going on. So we have like 4 different storylines. And favorite, I think one of my favorites, there's like a fly in here. I think one of my favorites is Manon. I love her chapters. I'm trying to pick my next read. Obviously, I've been in a slump. I went through like, I would say a week last week where I was reading a lot. I was reading like every day, probably for about 5 days straight. Now I'm back to, I haven't read in probably like 3 or 4 days. Also, it is almost July. It's June 28th, and I think I've only read 3 books this month. Yeah, for 3 books this month. I read Fourth Wing, Twisted Hate, and Heir of Fire. I read 1 book last month in May. That was really bad. That's when everything started. And then in August, I read like 10 books. Anyway, I have some books here that I'm trying to decide what I want to read. So we have Assassin's Blade and Queen of Shadows. I probably should have already read Assassin's Blade, but I didn't want to put myself in another slump, and I know that this one's pretty boring. A lot of people say it's boring. And after Crown of Midnight, I don't know if I can do that to myself again. Yeah, I really want to get into Queen of Shadows though. Like, that's the only reason I will read this, is so that I can read this. Then we have Things We Hide from the Light. This is the second book in the National series. I've already started it. I think I'm like 70 pages in. Anyway, I don't even know what I'm talking about right now. It is 7 o'clock in the morning and I have not been to sleep yet. Then we have Magnolia Parks. I have tried to read this book like 3 times already and I've gotten nowhere with it, but I just feel like it'd be an entertaining read because honestly, I'm not even in the, like, I'm not in the mood for fantasy and I'm not in the mood for romance, and those are like the only genres I have. I know it's not technically a romance, but like it kind of is. I don't know. So that's why I have this. Last but not least, we have Binding 13. I've also tried to read this. I know when I actually start this and get into it, it's gonna be really good because I like where everything's headed from Heir of Fire, and I'm very intrigued. Like, Heir of Fire has been the best one in the series so far for me, and I wasn't loving it at first, but the ending is really where it like got me. So I think I'm probably just gonna read this. I think these two are gonna be the books I read. I think I've made it my decision. I'm gonna read these two next, so I'm already reading this one. I'll start this one, and we'll see how it goes. So, right now I'm in the car, obviously. My boyfriend is playing golf. We're at the driving range, and I normally just stay in the car and read. This is the time where, like, for an hour, I just force myself to read. First couple times I tried to read it, I didn't like it. I think I was talking about this last night. But yeah, so now I have to read it because I have nothing else here to read unless I want to read something on Kindle. Also have some McDonald's. I got French fries that are almost gone. And my large Coke. I got a spicy McChicken. I'm probably gonna eat first and then I'll start reading. Yeah. I don't know if I'm gonna have to restart it or what, because I'll probably go back a couple pages because I kind of know what's going on, and this is just the beginning, so it's kind of just introducing you to everything. Nothing really is happening. Finished my food. Should I play some music, or like should I try to get into this first and then put on music? Ugh, I really don't want to read this, but we're gonna give it a chance. Every book that I read with like a guy, why in every book is the guy, like when they talk about his scent or whatever, it's always like leather. It's always like something and leather. I feel like that's a thing, right? I feel like in a lot of books I read, a lot of guys are like described as smelling like leather. I don't get that, but whatever. This seems important. I don't know. That has something, the worst day of my life. What happened? First of all, I know like they're trying to set it up to make it seem like Magnolia and BJ are like very close and nothing can split them up, and they just have this like very close relationship, like kind of like soul tie type of thing. But can I just say that if I was dating someone and they were always sleeping at another girl's house or something like that, I would be like, what? Because she's literally saying how like she dated this guy, right? Yeah, she dated this guy, and like, am I crazy for thinking like, first of all, if I was a guy and I was dating Magnolia and a guy was always sleeping in her bed, I'd be like, same with BJ though, like if I was dating BJ and he was always sleeping over Magnolia's house, I don't know, I just feel like weird. I just don't know like if I'm feeling where I think the story's going with, I obviously know what it's about, like this isn't a romance, like they're not gonna like get together and be all happy. It's gonna be a lot of back and forth, a lot of like miscommunication, a lot of you did this, I do this to you, that type of stuff. Like I know that's what's gonna happen because I've heard a lot of reviews and a lot of people talk about this book. So like I just feel like for me to read a book like that, I need to be very attached to the characters. Obviously I'm not that far into it, so I'm not attached to the characters yet, but I know like once I push through and get a little bit further into it, and once I form a connection with the characters, like I'm gonna enjoy it. It's just hard when you're reading kind of like a book with tropes or storyline that you're not loving, and then you also aren't attached to the characters, it's hard to keep going. But I want to. It's kind of like when you're reading a romance book and say like something happens at the end with like a trope that you don't like let's just, an example, say like something happens where it's like accidental pregnancy, but like when you already have a connection to the characters, it doesn't really bother you that much. Because for me anyway, once I love characters, I will literally read about them doing anything. That's kind of like how the Addicted Calloway series is. It's very much character based, so like there's not a real plot you're following. The first couple books, when you're meeting everyone, you have to like form that connection with them, so that like when you get later in the series and nothing's really happening but they're just kind of living life, you still are entertained because you love the characters. I think that's where I'm at right now with it, is that I'm not attached to the characters. I don't really know all the characters, and it's hard to read about just life that they're living. Like, it's hard to just read about their life when, first of all, I don't even know these characters. I don't know if I'm explaining that right, but that's where I'm at with it right now. So I just feel like I am going to read it and I am gonna like it, but I just have to like get to know the characters a little bit more. So yeah, I don't know. I am gonna read it though. I just don't know if right now is the right time. I might try again later today. This is just a weird slump I'm in, because if this was like 2-3 months ago, I would have just kept reading. Oh, my boyfriend's coming back.